right, thank you. Like you said, my name is Baruch Mettler. I'm currently a senior security engineer at Pangea. I've held security roles for a couple Fortune 500 size companies, a couple smaller companies, and a few startups. I'm a security engineer, incident responder, and I've been a manager of CERT. I've worked in the financial, technology, and healthcare industries. Incident response, you find yourself in a breach scenario. Your IR plan has been activated. Of course, everything is in chaos. No one knows exactly what is going on, yet everyone has an idea of what has happened. Your firewall teams thinks it must have been a phish. Your email teams believe it was the VPN. HR thinks it was an insider threat. And your security teams believe it must have been a 0-day or a deep-faked phishing attempt. How did we get here? The tools and the processes we've put in place have failed. Your policies, your procedures, your training, it all did not work. EDR, SIM, your alerting, your firewalls, your email phishing and malware prevention have not been enough. How do we handle this situation? I'd like to review some basics of IR that I found to work. Additionally, I'll demonstrate using external and internal APIs to assist in the handling of the IR phases. Specifically, I'll talk about how do we quickly process through data to discover indicators of compromise. We'll parse and analyze a full email export. We'll go through how to quickly and securely and verifiably log evidence at the time of collection, how to triage AWS CloudTrail for indicators. We'll analyze a compromised email box for PII, including the attached documents and files. And finally, we'll populate our EDR with the indicators that we found. After my talk, my hope is that you'll have more tools and techniques in which to handle the seemingly inevitable events that security professionals face. Incident responders. The ability to respond to an incident is determined by the skills of your team. Your IR team should consist of multiple members with multiple backgrounds. These backgrounds often have the side benefit of knowing who to talk to when you have an issue. You should include your security, of course, your IT infrastructure, developers, messaging, your networking teams, even your business teams like HR, accounting. Additionally, many times, or depending on the size of your issue, you may need to contact and work with external IR firms. So the challenges. You may need additional technology or use the technology you have differently. Intel sources help a lot. IP domain, whois, maybe VirusTotal. Forensic tooling like Encase may be required. Email analysis tools, something like Relativity, may be needed. Reverse engineering tooling. Like stated, the existing tools did not prevent the issue. Collection of evidence. Your evidence needs to be collected in a secure manner, time-stamped hash. It could be used in a criminal or a legal scenario. You could be sued. That evidence may exonerate you, but if it's handled poorly, it may not be admissible. The speed of the investigation and containment is critical. It's common to have senior management looking over your shoulder or business partners interested in containing the issue as soon as possible. And finally, thoroughness. A partially investigated incident can allow for attackers to persist. They can return and cause additional loss. Baking the cake. A previous manager of mine termed the coin baking the cake in regards to incident response. I prefer cooking. The ingredients are variable, easily substituted. You're not going to ruin a dish by forgetting soy sauce. Baking is precise. If you forget an ingredient, the cake will not turn out right. I once substituted baking powder for baking soda and ruined my cake. To bake a cake, you have to have the right ingredients in the right proportions. Some of those ingredients, probably MITRE is a great framework, but I've listed some here. You want to understand the point of entry. You want to understand how your attackers gained access into your systems. From there, you'll want to understand any pivot attempts that they've performed. So that would include successful and unsuccessful. It'll give you an idea of what they're going after, some of their techniques and tactics. You'll want to understand any and all attempts at persistence. So if accounts are created, access keys have been created, maybe a signing certificate has been stolen. Staging events, maybe they gathered data and put it somewhere for later exfiltration. Of course, you'll want, if it's a ransomware attack, you'll want the ransom note. It can give you details on the threat actor. You'll want maybe Bitcoin addresses or crypto addresses that they use, that those can be referenced. And finally, a big one is exfiltration. You'll want to understand what has actually left your business. You have requirements and commitments to your customers and to the public at large, both legal and ethical. So if you have an understanding of just the point of entry and just the exfiltration, you're not done. Here are two IR frameworks. There's the SANS Pickerel on the left and the NIST Incident Response Lifecycle on the right. Both are very good. SANS is a little more linear in concept. However, NIST is more cyclical. We do often have cycles in incident response. They exist particularly between the investigation and the containment phase. So often we'll have initial stages of investigation result in initial containment. However, investigation can take a long time. Forensic disk imaging or searching through logs is tedious and time-consuming. We'll often return several times to the investigation phase throughout the process. It's important to not get ahead of ourselves. Jumping straight to containing an issue can cause a loss of forensic information. A previous CISO of mine called this walking through a crime scene with muddy shoes. The simple act of rebooting a server can destroy evidence. I've seen cases where admins have tried to fix things themselves, writing cron jobs to kill malware, things like that. And it hindered the case. People can attempt to rebuild systems, reconfigure settings, delete files, apply patches, all trying to help, but causing issues. The investigation, including gathering non-persistent information, should be done before any of these destructive attempts are made. Your non-persistent information could be netstat or logged-in users, the system's volatile memory. Additionally, disk images may be necessary. This can preserve the state closer to the time of the incident. You'll keep important log files that may overwrite or files that change. So Pickerel, we have preparation, investigation, containment, eradication, remediation, and lessons learned. We'll go through some of those. My favorites are preparation and lessons learned. It's the chance you get to plan, to put together your playbooks, to anticipate what may happen. And then lessons learned, you actually have good data that you've experienced, a good understanding, a better understanding of your systems, and you can apply those lessons. All right, we're going to start with preparation, understanding attack techniques. There's a lot of industry reports out there. Mandiant has a good one, case studies, techniques, and threat actors. The Verizon DBIR is very good. It's one of the best reports using data viz that I've seen. It's easy to look at a graphic and tell trends. Red Canary has a really good one. It's very specific on attack techniques and has suggested mitigations. CrowdStrike's global threat report is good. It again lists trends in industries and actors. The bottom section here is breach reports. As these come out, they're very good to study, to apply to your business, see what other people have suffered, and hopefully prevent it at your company. So LastPass was a multi-stage attack. The first incident remediation was insufficient, and a second attack occurred. This one, a targeted privileged home user's computer was used to ultimately gain access to the password decryption keys. Cisco had an issue. An employee's personal account was compromised. The account was syncing with their corporate systems and exposed passwords. From there, a fairly aggressive and effective MFA bypass techniques were used, and social engineering. The VPN was accessed, and ultimately the Active Directory was exfiltrated. And then this persisted with repeated attempts to regain access, even going so far to guess that people would make a single password or a single character change on their password, putting an exclamation at the end or whatever. Microsoft had one. This one was a big one. Again, it originated partially with a user compromise. Sensitive data was written to their logs. A signing key was in a crash dump. This signing key was moved from production into a debug environment that the attacker had access to. And this allowed the attacker to read that signing key and ultimately use that to access Microsoft O365 email accounts. Okay, let's set up a scenario. So you're 3 months into a new job. Your job, you have multiple responsibilities. One of those includes incident response. It's Friday at 4:15 p.m., like always. You get an email from a security researcher that some data they believe is yours was found on the dark web. Quick data analysis shows that it belongs probably to a particular business unit. Timestamps in the data show that it has probably occurred within the last month. Of course, this business unit is a new acquisition. Your security standards, your tools, they've not been fully rolled out. That's not common at all. And then looking at our detection tools, our SIM, we're unable to catch the initial stages of the attack. We don't see any indicators. So we kind of have to start backwards. Ingredient number one, we're going to perform a user breach investigation. From our trend reports and our breach reports, we understand it often starts with a compromised user. Sometimes these accounts are leaked, and they end up in dumps. They're published maybe to the dark web or sold on the dark web. So using your Active Directory, Google Workspaces, even your HR and compliance tools, you can generate a list of filtered users. I've used Drata. They have a great API, and it can give you accounts for all your active users. Additionally, try to get your personal email addresses of your users. HR or recruiting often has these from the initial contact with the user, with the employees. So I'm going to show running a bunch of accounts against SpyCloud. So here's our data. And this is a Python script. It'll go through and hit an API. And fairly quickly, we see that several accounts show up. First one, test@example.com, shows in the last 60 days, it has been breached 248 times. Obviously junk data, but this is running live. So I was using a Jupyter notebook, handy to include some of your scripts in Jupyter. It can be used as a playbook for later cases. So in that data, we notice a user, Clicky McOften, he's here. He's had his email, his account show up in the breach data. Looking through our incident history, we notice he's had some trouble with malware on his machine in the past. Our phishing and training tools show that he almost always falls for the phish that we send him. HR has joined our incident response team. They report he's worked for the company, the recently acquired business unit, for about 15 years. And they also report that he has pending security training that he's not performed. So he's a likely suspect. We're going to specifically demo looking at Clicky's mailbox. We're going to obtain his email export. Obtaining email is a sensitive process. Often you want separation of duties between the reporter, the approver, and the analyst. The approver should be senior officials, and they should have the proper authority. HR may also be needed. The European Union has particularly sensitive rules. They have workers' councils that you may need to consult. A full email export is often even more useful than direct email access. It can contain even the deleted emails that have been deleted from the trash. With a approval change, the process can be eased with APIs. You can export email with both Microsoft Exchange and Google Workspaces. For this example, I'm just going to work off of an mbox. So, more finding my mouse. So here's the inbox file. Show you it's there. So one of the first things we want to do once we obtain the file is log it to evidence. So this log evidence shell script is just a bash script. It uses curl. It finds the SHA-256 hash. It takes the file and it base64 encodes it, it tars it, and it uploads it with curl to a logging system that is backed by an API. I'll go ahead and show that. We have some details, the collection analysts. So there we go, it's been uploaded. Again, we'll show it here. current timestamp, Pacific time. Somewhere is my mouse. All right. Back to the presentation. Okay. So we've demoed this. Now we'll extract and analyze the email. We'll expand the inbox file into a directory of individual email files, and we'll search through these emails. We're going to look at sender domains. We're going to hit CrowdStrike for domain reputation. We're going to look at whois for baby domains. I'll talk about that a little more. We're going to pull URLs and look at URL reputation. We'll look at IP reputation. We're going to search for some keywords. We have some MFA, password reset keywords. Additionally, if you're looking at a fraud incident, you can use common terms used in fraud. So whois has been particularly useful for me, particularly the domain creation date. Baby domains are things that have been created within a short period, maybe the past month or two, are particularly suspicious. They're often used in phishing. They'll be often a lookalike domain. One of the big issues I've had to deal with is reply chain takeover. So a vendor or a business partner will have their email taken over. They'll be having conversations between maybe your accounting department, and that reply chain will be taken over. It'll look just like the original email, but the domain of the vendor will change to something that's very similar, and it'll trick maybe the accountants or the accounts payable person into building a conversation, maybe building trust. Maybe they'll change a phone number in that reply chain and actually get on a call. So most of the businesses you deal with won't have brand new domain names. It's fairly rare. It's something important to look at. Okay. So here is the script to run that. This is extracting the email files. This here is analyzing those files that I've extracted. You can see we're checking DKIM as well, SPF, looking at URLs, reporting a verdict. A lot will be unknown. Here's whois information. We see Apache.com or .org, created date a long time ago. That one has a better reputation. So we're going to continue, and eventually we'll see a password reset. Here we see Amazon Web Services. If we continue, we'll see multiple rounds of this, multiple password resets. It makes us suspicious. So we'll continue the investigation. We're going to interview Clicky. We can come to him now that we've performed an investigation with some ideas. We have an informed set of questions that we can ask. You have to get old-fashioned and talk to people a lot of times. Knowing those facts helps that process. People often don't want to admit things because of embarrassment. Maybe they made a mistake. They often know that they should have reported something and maybe didn't. We ask Clicky about the odd AWS password resets. He kind of reluctantly reports that he has had trouble with his password. He was sure he had it right, but he's gone through several rounds of having to reset his password. We also learned that he happens to be the de facto cloud admin for our business unit, something we didn't know. Clicky reports he often works from home or mobile or the coffee shop, sell hotspots. So we're going to continue the incident into the cloud investigation using AWS APIs through Boto 3 and Python. We're going to archive all the forensically relevant CloudTrail events and search through them. Fortunately, AWS includes 90 days of free CloudTrail, even if it's not explicitly configured. Our business unit in this scenario did not. So we're going to find some activity. So here's our cloud investigation. It takes a little bit to run. It's hitting a live AWS account. So you'll see the script here can run through multiple regions. You'll want to specify your regions. It can work on multiple profiles. And it's chunking through. We notice a modify DB instance. We'll go ahead and look at our data. And here's the data that it logged. It's still logging, but this is old data. Here's that modified DB cluster, and we see a master user password change in our data. That is an interesting finding. And then to conclude here, we should see we see a lot of create users, create access keys, and at the bottom we check each IP. We see this IP coming from Moldova, which isn't consistent with our interview. We see that it's a proxy, and we see that it's a VPN. So in all the chaos of what Clicky normally does, we're able to boil up some likely malicious IPs. Okay. So now we have a story of how that data leaked. We understand user compromise has occurred. We understand that AWS password resets were used, and access to AWS was performed, and a password reset occurred. Probably time to lock things down, change your passwords, remediate the issues, but we're not done. So the next phase is dealing with Clicky's compromised email. So we assume his account was fully compromised. They had access to everything in it. It could be full of PII. It could be include other passwords. It could include access keys or information. What we're going to do is, again, we'll look at email, but this time we're going to use a tool called Apache Tika. Tika's pretty cool. I'll explain it some more. But we'll send data from the email box into a redaction engine. That redaction engine replaces data it finds with tags, and we can count the tags in individual emails and give us a count. So Apache Tika is a free open source project. You can send it PowerPoints, Excel documents, DocX, almost any, even some obscure file formats, and it'll give you plain text back. It can even OCR images. Here's some of the workflow. Just iterate over the emails, pass attachments to Tika, and then pass that to a redact engine, look for names, phone numbers, and social security numbers for this demo. You can look for credit cards, you can look for tokens, you can look for a lot of other formats. Here are some of my rule sets. Persons, credit cards, medical information could be done. And then we'll summarize at the end. Okay, here's the script. Executing this. We see the individual emails. We see a lot of persons. This is email addresses. Towards the end, we'll see some spam. But this example SSN docx, it'd be harder just to grep through those files. But using Tika, we were able to extract the plain text, like I said, and we see 9 social security numbers. I didn't have credit card email on, but it would have found credits here. And we see persons. Okay. So now that we have that information, we can pass it off to our legal departments, to our privacy teams. They can take that information and quickly notify either your obligations per contracts or legal obligations. And this last one here, we've collected malicious IPs. We could have collected hash files. We could have collected malicious domains. How do we deal with those? Do we want to go manually work with them? I'm going to demo using the Falcon CrowdStrike API to upload some IOCs. From there, in your EDR, they can block or detect when those IOCs are encountered within your corporate environment. That is here. So we're adding IOCs. Return 200, that's successful. And with remediation, the cake is baked. Let's review what we've done. We've worked backwards to determine exactly what has occurred. We made an informed guess as to where the initial point of entry was occurred. We investigated likely attack vectors by performing a user breach investigation. We identified the compromised users. We performed an email investigation to look for indicators that would reveal the source of the compromise. This included looking for phishing indicators and keywords. Using that knowledge, we performed a well-informed interview with our victim. We analyzed cloud logs. We looked for suspicious activity. We triaged our compromised data and identified sensitive information, even in those documents. And then we've taken those IOCs and applied them to our EDR tools. We're able to do this in an efficient, thorough manner, using automation, using internal and external APIs. We have a secure and complete evidence log of everything we've collected. We used the following APIs. We used IP and domain intel. We used domain reputation. We looked at URL analysis. We've used a logging API. We used Apache Tika, which is also an API. We've accessed AWS, and we've used the Falcon CrowdStrike API. And it's all in a simple Jupyter notebook so that we can reuse it. And that's it. Thank you. Appreciate it.